Good everyone, welcome to this video, and today we have a review on the B-24 Liberator. This is one of the last piston-engined, 4-engine heavy bombers that I actually have to spade, and well, it's actually quite a good one, I have to agree. Now, to some of you that may come as a shock, because normally people would be like, well, Joe, you love the Privateer, surely this thing can't top the Privateer. Um, I hate to break it to you, but it actually did. This thing actually felt better to play. Now that may come as a shock considering I've played 3 privateers and I've only played the one liberator because we only have one liberator in the game. And there's a good reason for that. But first of all, we need to compare the aircraft. Now, the privateer is, well, in game, it's marginally different in a couple of ways. The privateer is, well, it is based off the B-24, but obviously it's just got one big fat vertical stabilizer instead of two smaller ones. Now, in terms of controllability, I would actually say the B-24 is a little better, because at least with the B-24, if you lose a rudder or you lose one of your tail sections, it's no big deal. You can still fly. Now, there is an argument to make that the privateer is better in armament and armor, and that is correct. So the B-24 is less armored and has less guns, but Joe still prefers it. And why is that? Well, there's a good reason for that. Performance. This thing felt better to fly overall. It felt better in the dive, and most importantly, I felt I could push this thing further than I could the privateer. And given that this thing has what I call a sweet spot compared to the privateer not really having one, unless you roll the aircraft, which doesn't really count in my opinion, this thing really does have its benefits over the privateer. Now, in terms of payload, they carried pretty much the same payload, except I think the privateer can carry 2,000 pound bombs. Yes, the privateer can carry 4 2000s, I believe it is. If we just go to the privateer, yeah, here we are, 4 2000s. Although I don't advise that payload. So there are a few distinct advantages that the privateer has over the B-24. First of all, a proper nose. This nose section is horrid, and not only that, you don't get a lot of coverage with it. You get 150 cal sticking out the left, 150 cal sticking out the right, and 150 cal sitting in the gunner's bollocks, firing straight forward. Now, as much as it feels nice for the gunner to go eat my Mardu's, whilst it looks like he's using his gentleman's area, unfortunately this is not the case, and having just 150 whilst you wait for your board turret or your top turret to rotate around isn't exactly pleasant. The privateer has a twin nose turret, and it has much better coverage. So that's a point to the privateer. Again, point to the privateer for having twin side blisters. The additional dorsal turret on the privateer is nice, but I didn't tend to use it. But another point goes to the privateer for the twin side blisters. Here's where the B-24 starts to pull it back though. It has more horsepower in its engines, given the altitude that you're going to be most likely going to. Even if you go lower, the B-24 seems to have more power. The B-24 actually retains energy better, which is an achievement for a bomber. It feels better to turn in it, and most importantly, this thing has a sweet spot. This is where the board turret, the tail turret, and the top turret can all fire at the same time. Now, it's a very small sweet spot, it's just over the elevators, and when you get that on target, it's surprisingly effective. 650 cals firing at an enemy is certainly one to fear, because obviously that's the same armament as a Mustang, and a Mustang has pretty good guns. In terms of durability, both bombers aren't really that great. They tend to fall apart when you look at them funny, especially the tail. That can't really take a hit. The wings are quite vulnerable, and even then, the fuel tanks are also quite vulnerable, which, to be fair, if you're getting hit in this thing, you're dead anyway. It's a meaningless shot. It's going to shred this thing. But I do have to admit, I had more fun Spade and the Liberator than I did the well, I have to admit, the one that actually beats this is the Chinese privateer. I love that one. That one was just fun because you fought Japanese pretty much exclusively in that, and it was so fun. But other than that, I would actually say this B-24 is better than the French and the US privateer. I know I'm comparing copy-paste vehicles here, but give me credit, I don't have much to think of right now. It's either this or the B-17G. And in terms of capability for that, I would actually say the B-17G is better than this thing, but the B-17G can't dive like this. So there you go. So before I move on, I'll quickly show you what I got in the vehicle, which is a bomber. If you're expecting me to pull ace games out of my arse, unfortunately I can't. 12 deaths, 16 kills, 170 ground units, and about 10 to 12 bases. Didn't get too many, I mostly focused on ground units if I could, but it's a B-24. If you're really going that crazy over air kills, I think you need to go play something like a T-18 or a Brigand. But anyway, let's have a look at what I got up to in this bomber. So in this battle, we are joined by Flight, aka DSKPG SOE, and Hairy Feet. This is one of the many matches we played actually Spade this thing. And we also meet a, if I remember right, this is the match where we have a douchebag. I think it is. I think I saved the one with the douche. I can't remember. I know it was on this map, but I think this is the map with the douchebag. I know he was in a H Mustang with rockets, so if I see someone with rockets, I'll remember it. I'll just put us on 4 times speed. Yes, it is this map, because it's Giuseppe Ekins. So, standard procedure, it's a B-24. Same wings as the privateer, because obviously the Davis wing. Dive. This is what this thing's good at. Now on this map, it actually takes 7,000 pounds of bombs to take out a base. I have 12 500s. That's not enough, so yeah, it's not going to kill the base, but it's going to do a good chunk of it. Because obviously I didn't have the 1,000 pounders at this point. So I'm diving in, and as you can tell, it's actually retaining energy better than the privateer in this dive. Which, if you go back and look at my privateer video, you might see that I'm correct, for the most part. And again, sorry for the FPS drops, this map is known for that. I can only apologise for that. So obviously I'm looking, and I'm keeping an eye on Mr. Spade here, because he's going to try and play gunship, because, well, I mean, why the hell not? Because, well, people just like to be like that. I don't blame him, to be brutally honest, but of course I'm dropping all my bombs here, and I'm going to be returning them to base. Now the roll rate feels better on the privateer, but the turn rate, I would actually argue, is better on the B-24, because obviously this thing's got a lot less weight and a lot less armor. But it's a nice turning bomber. It does turn nicely for what it is. It's a 4-engine heavy bomber. You're not going to be turning like a Spitfire, but I don't know. It turns pretty nicely. I've got to say that. So I'm trying to bring the bomber down, but at the same time I'm trying to get guns on Mr. Spade. And obviously we do have a ball turret, which is very handy. But obviously, I'm not going to score shots on a passing 288 unless I get lucky. I think I scored 1 hit, and even then it wasn't fatal. But at this point, I start making my way back towards my airfield. Flight's over there in his P-47M, and Harry is over there in his miserable broken 5. There's a good reason why that thing earns that name. So I'm just going to jump us ahead a little bit. Because, well, we've got to land this bus, and, well, she can land on the forward airfield on this map, but you have to take it in slow. She's certainly not a pleasant aircraft when it comes to landing on small airfields, because the brakes are dog shit. But she seems to stop reasonably well on mid to bigger airfields. And this is where we're gonna meet Mr. Douchebag. So our team's doing pretty okay, but so is the enemy team. We're doing pretty okay so far, and obviously I'm heading up for my second run. And as you can tell, Giuseppe Ekins has done nothing. He's 21 miles away, space climbing. But now for some reason he seems to have actually decided to get involved, and for some reason he's carrying the bazookas. I mean, if you're gonna be a douche, use the H-bars. They are much more effective than freaking bazooka. Now luckily, this battle took place during, or when the team killing was off. So even if his rockets did hit, I would have been okay. So I'm just going to jump us ahead to Mr. Douchebag, and well, you're just going to see how much of a douche he is. He does nothing the whole game, and yet, you'll see. So obviously Flight and Harry are cleaning up pretty well. Harry's out of ammo, and well, Flight's still good to go for the moment. And at this point, I actually spot that 190 coming towards me, so I turn away. This is what you need to do. If you see a fighter coming towards you, just turn, get your sweet spot towards them, hope for the best. You're probably not going to survive, but you're probably going to take the enemy plane down with you. And that's the mentality that you need to learn. Now for some reason the dorsal turret and the ball turret are stuck in the forward up position and the forward down position. That's a replay bug. Just ignore that. That is a bug. So I started flying towards my teammates, and this is where Douchebag is going to come in. I don't know what his problem was, because he's done absolutely nothing the whole game. He has bazookas on for some weird reason, and he's going to kill that D9 if I remember rightly. And obviously that's a Dora. The Doras are very big threats to a Liberator, but if you get them in the sweet spot, you can at least take them down with you, is what I find. But obviously I'm flying towards the airfield. I'm looking for some cover, and obviously the Narval's just rearmed, so I'm looking for some cover and some assistance, so that's fair enough. As soon as I see that Giuseppe has actually engaged the D9, I decide to turn back. It's at this point where his douchebaggery starts. Now I have no idea what his problem was, and well, I just don't know. And Harry Feet was a witness to this, but we just don't understand his attitude and why he did it. And there you go. He's just fired rockets at me. He thinks it's a joke, but I wasn't going to tolerate his bullshit, as you're going to see in the chat. Because obviously, even though team killing was off at this time, that doesn't warrant his attitude. You had no reason to fire your rockets at your own teammate in a 4-engine heavy bomber. He was like, well, I wasn't sure I was going to hit that, my aim sucks, and I'm like, I don't care, you don't fire rockets at your own fucking teammates. And he's there like, why would I not? But the ironic thing is, he says in chat, I know common sense. Yeah, last time I checked, P-51 Mustangs never fired rockets at their own bombers. I've already reported him, so if you want to report him as well, here you go. Level 38, shouldn't even be in that Mustang, and he's completely useless. So, there you go. I don't understand that. I really don't. That's what confused me about this battle, but this battle is actually going to give me a good chunk towards Spade and his bomber, as you can imagine. Now, I was very lucky to actually live in this battle because of, well, that G10. Yeah, he's a stock G10. Not only is Flight going to put a comment on this video going, ugh, or something like that, but he's also going to be like, why did he do what he did? So at this point, I'm lining up for a bomb drop regardless, because obviously the G10 is focusing on a bot IL-10, but also I'm keeping an eye on him at the same time. I dropped 2 bombs just to be sure. It probably would have only taken 1, but I wanted to be sure. And at this point, Zemka has... You know when Harry goes, I saw snacks in some of his videos, or like in live comms that he does? Yeah, he does that a lot, and I think that guy's learned that, because now he's gonna make his way towards my B-24. But he does it in the worst way possible. he approaches from the sweet spot. Now, in this spot, you can shoot him with all those guns, and he's about to learn that the hard way. And there you go. That is why you don't mess with a Liberator's sweet spot. And that's my first and only kill for this game. Well, I mean, I've confirmed that as well, radio. I've made a joke about the radio in this game for quite some time. In fact, I don't think I ever have, so what better way than to do it now? So at this point, I'm turning around to get lined back up on a base. We've only taken minimal damage. Engine 3 is leaking a bit of oil, and the central slash wing, or slight left wing fuel tank is leaking a bit of fuel, but this thing carries 76 minutes of fuel roughly on normal load, because obviously we don't have a fuel slider to decide how much fuel we want. So I don't really care, because well, I've got enough fuel even with the leak to last the whole game, so I don't care at this point. So at this point I decided, okay, I'm gonna finish off this base, and well, Flight can go and kill the last Arado, which is the unarmed Arado, because we can't fight the C3 thankfully. That'd be terrifying. But even so, I figured 4 bombs would do the job, and I decided to use the ball turret to strafe out a AAA, which, again, the ball turret is used for. So there goes that base. The base's last bit of health ticks over, and at this point the Arado is actually coming towards me, so I thought, ooh, I might have a shot at this. But no, Flight's going to completely disintegrate his poor ass. I get a couple of hits in, but not enough to really warrant an assist. Or so I thought, and well, I don't really care if I do get an assist or I don't get an assist, but it turns out I did, so there you go. And for my final contribution, gunship mode on that howitzer. Because who doesn't love using a B-24 as a gunship? I think that sums up this plane perfectly fine. And I wouldn't be surprised if Giuseppe fired rockets at Flight, trying to TK him to get the Arado, personally, with how much of a douche he was. But yeah, I personally would fly the B-24 over the privateer unless it's the Chinese privateer. That Chinese privateer was a barrel of laughs. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's review on the B-24, and I will see you all on the next one.